All right, we're back.
Yeah, boy, are we ever. You don't know the half of it. Yeah, it's been a while.
But we're here. It's good to be back.
Yeah. All right, so what are we talking about today?
Today we're going to talk a little bit about built versus a bought.
So, built versus bought, built not bought.
Built, not bought. Both.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know.
Different,
Let's see.
the same. You know, there's different interpretations of that, right? For some people, bought means aftermarket parts, right? Bolt-on stuff. The Jeep built out of the Quadratec catalog, if you will. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way. Different strokes for different folks. Other folks, if you have a pro build a rig for you, right? Or you take your Jeep and drop it off, hand somebody the keys, and, call me when it's done, right?
Is that built or bought?
I'd say it's bought
By the driver,
by the driver.
right?
Right.
Whoever fabbed it, built it, but you're still just buying it.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, that's fair, right?
right? It's like paying for sex. You bought it, right? Anyway,
How about, okay, so, right, what if you buy, right, a 2-inch lift kit?
and you install it in your driveway.
Yes. Did you buy it or build it?
You bought the parts, right? And so that's another distinction. Some people really take this to the extreme, like if you didn't fabricate your own parts, right? So suspension's good, right? You can build your link arms, aka control arms, or you can buy them off the shelf, or you can take measurements and have some custom made, right? Like some custom
Some
aluminum, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of different flavors of this.
It would have to be a combination, though, of some at some point,
Well, yeah,
right?
I mean,
Like depending on,
yeah,
because I can't make a joint. I don't
when
think.
you're going to 3D print your steering pump, your hydraulic pump,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That kind of shit, right? You're gonna buy a pump.
How to buy it?
You're gonna buy a radiator. Probably you're not gonna build your own radiator, right? So I think you have to be reasonable, and I don't think it's cool to be critical of somebody who does, buy their stuff. Whether it's the entire rig. I mean, there's pros and cons to it, right? Not everybody can build one, right? Despite what these guys, who, are on these forums and trolling online because they've been building rock crawlers since, they were 9 months old, good. That's cool. But not everybody can do that, right? Not everybody has the time, the tools, the
Tools
skills.
are a big one, right? Tools, skills, will.
And some people are smarter than me, and they want to trust, their welding to somebody that
Has years of experience.
that knows what they're doing. By the way, you shouldn't knock on that, but I think there's some wood in here. It hasn't fallen apart yet, nor is yours, and they've been wheeled pretty hard. So time will tell.
I
But
would say, for me looking at it, right, my opinion is there is an advantage of doing your own work.
I think there are multiple advantages to it,
Okay.
right? The experience, the satisfaction that you get at some point, right? not during. It's not very satisfying while you're, wringing your hands and crying, wondering, what were you thinking when you, cut your frame for the first time. But there's a satisfaction to be had, doing the work, especially if it works out. But there's a lot of trial and error. That's costly.
Double the work sometimes.
Yeah.
Twice the expense.
Could be more expensive, right? It's not necessarily. Okay, and then there's this other thing, right? Buying a used rig.
Right, hold on. Before we get to the used rig, right? For me, right, I think the only to me the best advantage of building it is if you break, you have an idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
Right? Because you've been under there, you've seen it, you've taken it apart, you put it together, you cut it off. So now you kind of have an idea of, oh, this is that, whatnot.
Well, yeah, and then I mean, in some circles, right? That's like a more authentic thing, right? You know how to fix your rig on the trail, right? As opposed to if you didn't do any of that work, you're kind of at the mercy of other people to help you figure it out.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, you might be a motorhead, gearhead anyway, but you just have the wherewithal to pay
you're a
somebody to
motorhead
do it.
and you're smart and you just have someone else do all the work?
Well, look, it's possible, right?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean,
if I could just pay somebody like Richard Hulse to build me a buggy or Jesse Haynes, why wouldn't I?
Would you?
Maybe.
I mean, at some point, right? Like, yeah, but
I mean, like if money wasn't an object.
yeah, but you kind of go back to some of those things. Part of it's the fun and the experience of it.
Yeah, for sure.
But man, it'd be nice to go pick it up and be done and wheel this weekend.
Yeah, especially, I'm not a spring chicken, in 10 years from now. That would be very appealing probably compared to doing it myself.
All right.
But
What about
you know the stuff. Like if something breaks, you know where to look. If one of your systems, say your lockers, stop working, right? You have a much better idea of how to troubleshoot, the things to look for, if you put all that stuff together.
kind of know where it is too, where the wiring is, things like that. Makes it a little bit easier to find it and start figuring it out.
Yeah, and you have control if you're building it yourself. You have, every artist. You know what I mean? If you take it to an artiste, it's sometimes hard to, get your way.
They're going to do it their way.
They're going to do it their way in a lot of cases, right?
Yeah.
And you have to trust them, and hopefully it works out. I mean, you hear some negative feedback, once in a while it gets out. Somebody's feeling burned by somebody that they've asked to do some work for them. And that goes both ways. Sometimes the builder feels burned by the client.
Yeah.
So I think there's anytime you're getting involved in that kind of business with a friend, one of your wheeling buddies, that could be a problem too.
Wait, what?
If you're paying them.
Oh, if you're paying them, yeah.
We have a good arrangement.
Right.
We help each other.
There's no money really involved. That's what makes it clean.
Yeah, and if something breaks, we work on it together.
Right.
We're in it together.
But if I were paying you and we were wheeling together and something went wrong, and I just handed over $5,000, I might be a little sore.
Well, it'd be your fault for trusting somebody that doesn't know what they're doing.
All right. You said a little, what did you say about buying a built rig?
Yeah.
So you mean buying a used built rig?
Yeah. So I was thinking about this when we were working on mine recently, trying to run down some gremlin with the lockers, right? And with my lockers, there's an air component and an electrical component, right? Because you have switches, solenoids, but it's an air system. So when we opened up my console, and I'm looking at that, I'm thinking, shit, man, this would suck for somebody else. You know, if you can still buy my rig, okay? Don't get scared, right? It's cool. And I'll sell it to you. But, you know, if you had to troubleshoot that mess, right? Especially because, we won't get into the whole story, but there were some different lockers installed. They were defective. And when we replaced them with the ARB lockers, we just repurposed the wiring, the harnesses that had gone in for the E-lockers. You know, so there's that, right? It's not like, it's kind of a Frankenstein setup, right? And, you know, we, through trial and error, right, we ran things the way we ran it. You know, there's, you know, some power going to the fuse box and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, if you just bought that thing based on how it looked on the outside and how it performed and whatever, you know.
It'd definitely be intimidating and a mess, because it even was for us, and we did the work, and we knew where everything went.
You gave me a good seller review on Facebook Marketplace, and then you got there and, you know, opened that can of worms up. That would suck for somebody to have to troubleshoot something like that. So I started thinking, you know, yeah, if you buy a rig from somebody, you know, and maybe they bought it from someone else. They bought it and they wheeled it. And so, you know, some of the modifications they didn't even do.
Right.
You know, and if it worked while they were running it, they didn't have any reason to mess with it.
Or touch it. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So there's a lot of, it's like buying a house, you know, that's been remodeled a bunch of times. You don't know what's behind the sheetrock. Right? So you don't quite know what you're getting into. So, but that's one area, right, where when we're talking, one of the biggest cons of buying a rig is, you know, is the cost. But somebody who's just, you know, getting out of it for whatever reason, you know,
They got married.
yeah, they have to have somebody undeported or something, imported, reported, whatever, you know, and they need the money. Or somebody's telling them, get that fucking thing out of our yard. I'm tired of looking at it. You never go wheeling, you know, it's just sitting there. So they come up and they're sometimes quite affordable, you know, a built Jeep or rock crawler, buggy, whatever, right? So is it still a good deal if it has a bunch of gremlins?
Yeah, I don't know. And you're going to get what you get, right? And do you, right? Are you partial to ORIs now versus a different product?
Well, yeah.
So if it came with air shocks, do you run it or do you change it?
I'd run it till it didn't work. You know what I mean? I mean, I would imagine that if I bought something like that, it was because it's functioning.
Do you think it matters your wheeling style?
It might.
You know what I mean? Like it's built. Someone that's got a heavy foot bounces off things.
Yeah.
Right? Like I wonder, you know, just thinking through it here, is that going to matter, right? If you get...
Well, it's going to be different no matter what.
Right.
It's a different rig.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I don't know. That's what I was thinking about. If I were to buy one and I'm like, man, I want this, this, and this, and it didn't come with it, and I'm like, maybe you run it till you change it or till it breaks. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I think it's a good way to go for a lot of people, especially if you're a pretty good mechanic. And, you know, and you have experience, you know, somebody,
I think that helps.
Somebody like our friend who's been wheeling for decades and, you know, around vehicles and is good with a wrench and a welder and, you know, whatever goes wrong, he can fix.
Yeah.
So, and we're talking about you, Jeremy. So yeah, I mean, you see these things pop up for 15, 20 grand. That's, you do some quick math and add up the parts that are in the list, in the build, in the ad, and you realize, wow, you're getting, $30,000 worth of parts for 15 grand.
Yeah, that's easy. That's not crazy. It seems crazy, but once you start doing it,
I mean, axles, right? That's the other one that people commonly debate. Building a junkyard axle versus buying a manufactured axle. We've done both, and there's pros and cons.
I mean, a junkyard's great, except for you don't know everything about it. You gotta have all the tools, right? You gotta learn how to gear, right? These things that
and weld
because you gotta cut everything off and prep it for whatever you're putting it in, right? So I would say it's cheaper, for sure,
but marginally. By the time you buy, gears, brackets, I mean, we're talking a junkyard axle, right? So it's not going to have a locker in it probably, right? You're going to change the carrier, you're going to change the gears, you're going to change all the bracketry. You might change the shafts, depending on what it is. Probably you will, but maybe not. It's super beefy.
Lug pattern.
Yeah, you might, there's a lot that you can change on it. It can add up pretty quickly. So you might save a little bit, but it's going to cost you a shitload of time.
Yeah, you lose it in time, for sure. Right, if you're counting hours.
Well, if you're new to it.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you do it every day.
Yeah. Some people are really fast.
Yeah. And I hope we don't have to do gears again. Ever.
Yeah, what are the odds? So yeah, I would say that there's a good argument for doing it either way. But I think the best argument for the junkyard axles is the experience you get from it.
Yeah, you learn how to take them apart, how to put them back together, if it breaks.
Yeah, because you're not going to save that much money. Especially if you go whole hog on it.
Well, I'm going to pretend I'm not hearing you because I feel like I saved a ton of money.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure
Good.
you saved a lot of money.
Thank you. I feel better.
And you can't necessarily always get the axle. I mean, probably mostly you can, but configured exactly the way you want it, right?
In a junkyard or new?
Aftermarket, unless you're working with the builder, that company to do it to your specs. I mean, you had to with your front, right, with the left-hand drive
or right-hand drive.
Oh yeah, whatever. Wrong, the opposite of the rest of us, unless you're watching us from the UK, then you'll know where he's driving from. But for the rest of us, has to be a big sticker on his windshield to remind us that he's not sitting in that seat over there. Yeah, right there. He sits over here on the wrong side of the vehicle. And chaos ensues from there.
Right, and they were nice enough to work with me and help me figure that out and build it that way.
Yeah. And it really did. I mean, I know it was a pain in the ass for them too.
I'm sure it was, especially cutting it all off. I bet that was a pretty big job.
Well, I know because he told me it was.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But yeah, it did pretty much bolt right in. We didn't have to do much at all to make it work. So,
yeah.
Kudos to Dan and Fusion. They got that one, and it went into this right-hand drive mail Jeep. It's just like it was made for it, because it was.
Yeah, it works great. It's going to work better when we're done with it.
Yeah, so, as I've said in the past on other topics. You know, I don't think people need to look down their nose at anybody because of the way they do their thing, right? If you want to, you know, get stuff from Northridge or
anywhere,
wherever, right, and bolt it on, good on you. You know, you do you.
I think bolting it on is pretty good. That's a good step.
It's a gateway drug, is what it is.
Yeah, it really is. Right? Because
if we're going to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. If we could have started driving our Jeep and then jumped to this point instead of all the in between.
You're going to go from thumbing all the way through the Extreme Terrain catalog, front to back, to throwing that thing in the trash can as soon as it comes out of the mailbox, and you're going to end up with some Frankenstein thing like one of these.
Talking to your friends, hey, how am I going to get this to work?
So anyway, it's all good. Now, this is one topic I think people are going to have opinions on, some strong ones maybe. So if you happen to listen to this or see this, we'd sure like to know what your opinions are on this built versus bought topic. I think they both have their merits, you know. So
yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah, let us know what you think.
Yeah, please comment, like, subscribe. It really helps us with the YouTube side of things. You guys know where to find us in the Instagram world. Crawl USA _Jason, right? But let us know. Built it, bought it. What'd you do? Would you do something different?
Yeah, and if you don't have some kind of hybrid, we really want to hear from you. Like, if you built your own radiator, I think the world wants to hear all about it. All right.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the trails.